Well, thank you very much for taking the time. It is an honor and a privilege to talk to you.
Thanks, man. My pleasure.
So first of all, tell me about the Fozzy gig in London ahead of Allin. What can people expect from it?
Well, I mean, that's such a broad question, but I think the cool thing is that this will be our third headlining show in London over the course of the last year. We have such a great fan base in the UK, and it's just always a blast to come and tour the UK and actually playing in London before All In, like we did last year. This is becoming a traditional thing. So we always love playing in the UK, and we've got such a great fan base there. It was the first kind of territory that really embraced Fozzy back in 2005 or six. So, like I mentioned, man, I don't think we've played more shows than any other country, with the exception of the United States, than we have in all of the UK. So it's going to be a blast as it always is.
I've actually been to a Fozzy gig. I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago,
Mm.
and they always bring the energy, and the fans always join in. It's always good chaos.
Yeah, I mean it's a rock and roll show, man. You know, it's a rock and roll party, like we always say, and that's one of the reasons why we continue to come back to the UK. When we play, like I said, we played last August before All In, and then we came and played in February, I think it was, and now coming back again. I mean, that's a lot of shows in one city throughout the course of a year, but there's a reason for that, and it's because our fans in the UK and our fans in England, our fans in London always deliver. Like you mentioned, there really is um, a great connection and a great symmetry between our fans and ourselves. So we're excited. We got a couple surprises in the chamber that we haven't done in London this year. That's another thing we got to change things up, so it's not the same show. So because there will be people there who've went to all three, and some are there just seeing this one, and it's gonna be great. And then that's another reason why we wanted to have Swerve Strickland opening up for us. You know, he's done a great job with his rap career, and it's a little bit of a different style of music, but the energy remains the same. And that's what Fozzy's all about anyways, is just energy and a good vibe, and Swerve brings that as well. So it's going to be a great package, and it's a perfect way to kick off All In weekend as we get ready to hit Wembley on Sunday again.
Yeah. The band generally, Fozzy has become popular in its own right. It's not like Fozzy plus Chris Jericho, it is Fozzy. Like, that must make you really proud of the band.
Well, we've always worked hard on that. You know, it's never been ever once, you know, we're getting ready to celebrate our 25th anniversary this year. And it was never once Chris Jericho and his band of merry men. You know, it was never Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers or Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. It's always been a band. And Rich and I have been together since day one. And Billy's been with us for over 10 years, and PJ and Grant have been with us for years now as well. So we take great pride in the fact that we put together a great band of musicians and friends, a great group of people, a great group of guys, and we take it very seriously, and as we should. You know, in the States, where rock radio is still very much of a big influence, we have actually seven top 10 singles now. Judas, the song, went gold. I'm looking at the gold record on the wall right now. You know, we played our biggest show we've ever played as a headliner in Nottingham just, 6 months ago in the UK. And our second biggest show was in London last year. So, you know, we were continuing to grow and probably bigger now than we've ever been because we've worked at it. We probably had to work twice as hard to get people's respect because I was the singer. Yeah. But now I think we've gotten that respect and so much more. People know that we work very hard and it's the real deal. And a lot of times people ask me questions about certain, technical questions or logistical questions or, gig questions. And I'm just the singer in a rock and roll band. You know, I do a lot of the press. I sing, creatively I'm involved, but songwriting, that's Rich's department, and everybody's got kind of their wheelhouse now. And that's the sign of a long running band. You have to know what your role is on the team and play that role properly. And if you can do that, the team wins. And right now, Fozzy's got a winning streak going on for sure.
Yeah. I think for a lot of wrestling fans, the first exposure to Fozzy was probably when you did Raw, like 2004, 5.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest difference between the band now and then?
I mean, like any band, we're kind of finding our way at that point in time. we're doing a lot of covers, and we're kind of experimenting with originals. And I think 2010 is when Rich and I said, let's go full on with this. No more like just having fun. And if you notice that time we played on Raw, that was basically the only time we ever did anything in the wrestling world, because I realized people aren't going to take this seriously if it's a wrestling thing. It's got to be a rock and roll thing. And that transition started in 2005, like you mentioned, with All That Remains record, which was our first all original record, and then continued forward from there. And that's when it was like, let's really go full on with this with Fozzy in about 2010. And that's kind of where that whole thing started. 2015, I think, is when Lights Go Out hit American radio. That was our first hit single. And then lo and behold, we became a radio band, which is so crazy when you think about it. But we're the type of band, when a song comes out, it goes to the top 10, like pretty much. It's just a given. And that's a cool place to be, because it makes a big difference in the US. And in the UK, people just like what they like. And they've like, once again, there was never any, it's the Wrestlers band in the UK. I remember the first show we ever had in Nottingham at Rock City, in the smaller room downstairs. Still holds about 400 people or so. Actually, it's the mid-sized room. And I remember walking on stage. It was our first show ever in the UK. And I thought that I had walked on the wrong stage, because there's multiple rooms in there, because the place was jam-packed, like packed.
Yeah.
And we'd never played in front of a crowd like that before. And it just right out of the gate, people really took to Fozzy in the UK. And so it was never so much a wrestling thing here or there where you are. And here, like you said, there was first people checking it out, maybe because of the wrestling contacts, but that only lasts for so long. It's like every band has some sort of a gimmick. Kiss has makeup, Slipknot has masks, whatever it may be. And that lasts for one exposure, one free pass to check out the band. And then after that, the band better be good, or people will move on. And that's what we've always prided ourselves on, is having a great rock and roll band, a great live show, and great songs. And yeah, I'm a wrestler. Deal with it, because when we're on stage, we're not, giving each other body slams and, hitting the ropes in a ring. We're there to rock you, shall we say?
What's the long-term goal now for Fozzy? Because last year you did technically play Wembley Stadium as well, so you've kind of done everything that you can do with them, really. So what is left for Fozzy to do?
I mean, there's a lot left. Like I mentioned, like to do that show at Rock City, the big room this year, and have our biggest headlining crowd ever, was a huge monumental deal. And to have Army of One, which is just about going to go top 10 probably this week, it will, and make that number 7. That's a big thing. So it's just to continue to do what we're doing and create great music, and continue to play these shows and build the band to where, we're continuously topping each other with the ticket sales and with the streams. I mean, I remember right now, I actually have to post a graphic. Judas just hit 100 million streams. I mean, just think about that. Like the band that that people didn't take seriously at first, now has a song that has 100 million streams. I mean, we should get some sort of an award for that, and I'm sure we probably will. But those types of things are like, well, what's next? Like, I mean, Judas is going to go platinum over the next couple of years, just with the way that the trend is going. So there's always more to do.
Yeah.
And I think, once again, we've got it down pat. We've got the best lineup we've ever had. We have a touring model that is always successful. We have a great fan base around the world. We'd like to expand into other countries. Japan would be great, South America, but right now it's like Canada, United States, the UK, Australia. Those are all great territories for us. So you just want to continue to build and continue to make your fans happy and build new fans. That's what's left, so to speak, as we move forward.
2 days after your gig, you're doing Allin at Wembley. How do you kind of change from Rockstar Jericho to Wrestler Jericho? And also, like, how do you keep that energy level up to go from something so big to, again, something even bigger?
Well, last year I did them both at the same time when I played myself to the ring, and we're going to do it again this year as well. So it's live energy. Anytime you do something live, there's a certain magic to it. And whether that's wrestling or music, or if you're a stand-up comedian, or if you're a stage actor, you get one shot at it. There's no take 2, there's no take 3. You got to really really do everything you can to make sure that people are enjoying themselves and make sure that people have a good time. So that element stays the same, whether I'm in the ring or whether I'm on stage. You're almost the party host and you're directing traffic, so to speak, and making sure that people are having fun, like I said, and have the energy that you want them to have, because there's nothing better than having a great crowd with a lot of energy, and there's nothing worse than having a quiet crowd with no energy. I don't care how good you play or how good your match is.
Mm.
If people aren't reacting, then it really wasn't all that good, was it? So there's a lot of those types of elements that are very similar because it's all live.
Yeah.
um and Jericho, the wrestler, is different from Jericho on stage. And it is kind of interesting to do them both within the same, 20 minutes like we did last year and like we're going to do this year. But that's why I don't do it too often, because there is a little bit of a switch that you have to have. But it's worth it. I mean, to say we've played Wembley Stadium twice, I mean, that's a combined 5 minutes. The last year was what, 2.5 minutes. This year will be the same. But 5 minutes at Wembley, I think any rock and roll band ever would take that. Obviously you want to do a whole set, but if you're not Queen or Taylor Swift, I bet you anybody would take 5 minutes doing that. And we got to do that. So it's a great honor for us.
Yeah. Your match at Wembley is against Hook this year. Last year it was Will Ospreay. It's two completely different styles, two different opponents, essentially two different generations of wrestler as well.
Sure.
What are your thoughts going into that match against Hook?
Well, to me, it's all storyline. I think last year Will was doing the G1, so we only had a
Mm.
couple weeks to build it. And I thought we did a really good job in building that. And plus, that was a little more of a dream match of Jericho versus Ospreay. Like, okay, we want to see that. It pretty much sold itself.
Yeah.
It was a great match. I know it was one of Tony Khan's favorite matches of the year, which is always cool when your boss liked it. This year's different. Hook is, like you said, from experience level, is a completely different animal. But the story we had this year, I mean, it's been 6 months and it's been a good story. I really enjoyed it with Samoa Joe and Shibata, and working into the learning tree with the Redwood and with the Bad Apple, and we got a lot of people involved in the story. Got a lot of people over, and Hook. The plan was for him to learn and to have a great featured role on Dynamite and AEW. So like I said, this is his last chance. This is the final battle, so to speak. And I think we've told the story. And I remember back in about May, I was like, I wonder if we can make this to Wembley. Like,
Mm.
I think we can, but let's try. And lo and behold, we did. And I was really happy with everything involved, like I said. So it's going to be the final battle, like I said, the culmination of this great story that we've told. And whether good or evil wins, you'll have to see on Sunday. But the point being is that I think the story got here perfectly. Hook has done a great job. He's gotten so much better over the last 6 months from working with all the guys that I mentioned. And I think the fans have enjoyed it.
Mm.
And like I said, that's the most important thing to me. So I'm very happy with last year's Wembley appearance and storyline behind it, and I'm just as happy with this year's as well. Ask me again Sunday evening how I feel, and we can go more from there. But I know it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of great surprises and a lot of monumental moments in the match, I'm sure.
Not to age you, but I kind of feel like you and Taz are two of the only originals from like the Attitude Era, kind of ECW era, that are still on screen regularly all the time. Like, it must be a bit surreal that you're now wrestling Taz's son.
It is, and you could probably throw Dustin Rhodes in there too. I
Mm.
think we're kind of the three. Billy Gunn, I guess. Um, but yeah, wrestling his son is great. I mean, that's another cool thing about like wrestling this weekend in Cardiff against Tommy Billington, the Dynamite
Mm.
Kid's nephew. And I've wrestled a few sons before. But yeah, I mean, Taz and I'm not going to say we ever had a huge feud, but he was one of my first matches I ever had in ECW. I worked with him a few times, and more than a few times in WWE. So yeah, it's cool to see his son and what Hook has been able to do. Because I think at first Hook, I'm not sure if he wanted to be in the business. I think he was just kind of there and just kind of like, okay, I'll give it a try. But now he's really feeling it. He's doing a great job. And um, but yeah, once again, like to me, it is crazy to think I've been doing this for 33 years, but it's not that crazy because I'm still really enjoying it, still doing it at a high level and creating really cool moments and keeping fans, involved and happy or angry if that's the way they feel. But that's okay. That's the wrestling business. So Yeah, I'm happy to work with Taz's son and with Dynamite's nephew and with anybody else. It's just great to be a part of such an awesome company like AEW that we've built so quickly in just 5 years. And to know that I was an integral part of it and still am is an honor once again.
Yeah, I'll come back to the fan criticism in a minute. But you've been with AEW obviously since day one. So how do you kind of sum up your personal journey, as well as the fact you've constantly reinvented yourself while you've been there?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before, but it's very much the David Bowie influence.
Mm.
Bowie always reinvented himself, always kept you guessing on what he was going to do, and always kept it great. And I always, when you're on TV week by week by week for years on end, you have to change, or you just become a nostalgia act, and that's never been something that I've ever really been interested in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I mean, I think when I took the chance to go to AEW, it was a little bit of a risk because we didn't know for sure what was going to happen. And here we are 5 years later, doing Wembley for the second year in a row with, a television contract hanging in the balance that could change wrestling history the same way that we changed wrestling history when we started AEW in 2019. And it paid off huge. So I think it was another kind of feather in the legacy cap of Chris Jericho that we were able to literally change the wrestling business when we started AEW and just the salaries that guys made the moment I signed that contract skyrocketed. I mean, everybody owes me a steak dinner. It's like it happened in professional hockey when a guy called Bobby Hull in the early 70s signed a contract with the WHA, which was a whole new hockey league. Suddenly everyone in the NHL got double and triple their salaries. The same thing happened in pro wrestling and in WWE when we started. And that's just great for the guys. It's great for the fans. It's great for the business. So I'm really happy that I took the chance with Tony Khan and Kenny and the Bucks and Cody to do this. And here we are 5 years later, and we can sit back and go, we were right. We took a chance, and it paid off big time.
It feels very much like your current run leans into a lot of fan criticism, especially kind of with the high thing that you do at the beginning of pretty much every promo now. How do you deal with that fan criticism, or do you just not care at this point?
I just don't care, Adam. I really don't, because things go in phases. Like 3 years ago, those same people that are chanting, please retire, were saying Jericho's the greatest of his generation. Kenny versus Jericho at the Tokyo Dome was like the match that changed the course of history, and everyone was talking about it and how great it is. So I think the biggest thing is just that I've been around for so long, working on top, never getting hurt. So I'm always here. It's not like I force myself onto the shows because my ego is so big I can't handle not being on it. It's like I work for my boss who puts me on TV because it draws ratings. And it's nothing too. There's a whole thing where Jericho has go away heat and like ratings go, like that's not true. Like look at the ratings every week. I mean, not every week, but I'd say 80% of the time my segment goes up. It's one of the biggest gainers on the show. So there's a lot of people that just refuse to believe anything else because, you a few critics, and then those critics have their fans, and then suddenly there's a narrative that's told, and then there's the facts, and the facts are, I'm still one of the most valuable characters on the show for many different reasons. And if I told Tony Khan I wanted to take 6 months off, he'd say, "Are you kidding me? There's no way." So, so I just leaned into it, and the character was very sarcastic and very much a know-it-all. Yeah. All the things that people were saying that I was, well, then let's do it. Like we all know that person who knows everything about nothing, but meanwhile, they really don't know what the hell they're talking about. So let's do that. And let's be really sarcastic and slow speaking so that everyone can understand what I'm doing. Hi guys, that sort of a thing. And then I played that for a bit, and then I morphed it again, made it a little bit more serious. We put Samoa Joe through a fucking wall and threw a fireball at Hook's face. Suddenly it's not so funny anymore. I, kind of really based it on the Devil's Rejects, 2009 on those characters. Like Baby is her name, the horror movie. She's literally scalping a guy while she's laughing about it, like and
Yeah.
it's kind of like creepy. Like these guys, the three of us, are so smiley and hi guys, but deep down inside there's more to it than that. So you work on the different layers of a character, you see what gets over, and once again, like the click of a pen, just holding my hand up now and not saying a thing,
Mm.
people start to react, and then hi guys, big reaction. It's like the people that hated me are, as they always are, just puppets that I manipulate. And that's the wrestling business, and at this point in time, I'm I can read the room and make adjustments and morph into whatever I need to be for people to love it or people to hate it. And either way, it gets a reaction, and either way, people are paying money to see it.
What's been the favorite version of you throughout your career?
Anytime somebody asks, I always say the current one. I mean, I really love what I'm doing. I love, just once again, just the way that I was able to play this part into this, into this new thing. I mean, I've loved a lot of the stuff that I've done. I mean, I think you can go through all the different eras of Jericho, and there's something good from all of it, and something probably not as good. But that's, not everything you try is going to be 100%. But if you commit to it, most of it's going to work. I mean, suit and tie Jericho, the Shawn Michaels feud
Yeah.
was one of the best. I think you got to look at that as being one of the greatest feuds of all time. I think the original version of Jericho, Le Champion and the Demo God, the stuff I did with Cody and Mox was amazing.
Mm.
I think the Jericho Appreciation Society, the Inner Circle, both of those were killer. Just going through all of it, but kind of culminating here with the Learning Tree. I really, really am enjoying this, and like I said, once again, how we were able to play this into something way bigger than we thought it could be when we first started,
Mm.
and still has so much potential to get even more grandiose.
Yeah. Just a bit of a left field question. Have there been any myths or rumors about you during your career that you've always wanted to just kind of dispel because they're just complete rubbish?
Well, I mean, people are going to say rumors if they want. I think the biggest thing was like this whole Jericho Vortex thing that
Mm.
was created by, critics, like that. My only mission is to work with people and bury them, and that people are less off after they work with Chris Jericho. That's totally the opposite. And you could probably go down the list and ask anybody in AEW. Obviously, not every feud and story works, but I could name you 20 people that benefited from working with me, and I benefited from working with them as
Mm.
well. Like, people forget Danny Garcia, for example, one of the top most talked about guys on the show. No one knew who he was
Mm.
before the Jericho Appreciation Society. So for anybody to say that, like, that's just one example right there. I mean, Big Bill and Brian Keith, they're having the time of their lives right now, working with the stuff that we're coming up with and working together with. So all of the Sammy Guevara, I mean, you name it, MJF, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, Jack Perry, Scorpio Sky. I mean, I worked with all those guys right when we first started. Dude, I mean, Cody Rhodes.
Mm.
Cody wasn't the Cody that he is now when AEW started. Same with Mox. Mox came over still with the Dean Ambrose type of vibe.
Mm.
We worked hard to get those guys on the map. Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, all of them. So Hangman Page, right out of the gate, we're going out of our way to build these guys and give them great moments and give them great storylines. So yeah, that to me is the one thing where, like, I don't like that rumor, and that perception of me that I'm just here to steal money from the business and you never win or never lose. That's just stupid. You have to not watch the show to say that. And the funny thing is, a lot of people that say that don't watch the show, don't watch AEW, have no idea what we're doing. So anyways, that's something there that I really enjoy proving wrong time and time and time and time again.
When you look back at like the Jericho from 1990 who debuted against Lance Storm, what's the biggest piece of advice you wish you had known at that point that you've kind of learned since?
There really isn't anything I wish I would have known. I learned a lot of stuff as I was doing it, but that's the way that it should be. I always had confidence in myself, and always believed in myself. So that goes a long way. You know, when I started, the business was different. It was all about really big guys, and I was not a big guy. I am now in you know, in the ratio of how guys have changed. I mean, obviously not big Bill big, but bigger than 50% of the roster. And when I started, I was smaller than 90% of the roster.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, I think a better question would be, what advice would I give? And it's just to believe in yourself, you know, and really commit to what you're doing. If you're playing a character, go all the way with it. You know, like Orange Cassidy, what a great example. Another guy who we had an amazing 14 weeks of a feud with in the middle of a pandemic with nobody watching.
Mm.
But, you know, he commits all the way. And at first I didn't understand the gimmick. This gimmick is stupid. He's making fun of the business, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you get your head out of here, Chris. Like, there's a reason why he's super over. Why is that? You watch him, it's like, wow, I want to work with this guy. I understand what he's going for.
Mm.
You know, wrestling is all about characters. I think there's a kind of a misconception that match quality is the biggest thing nowadays, and how many stars can your match get and all that sort of thing. Always important to have a good match, not as important as the character you're playing and the story you're telling to get there. That's the most important thing. And I would tell anybody, concentrate on that more than concentrating on amazing moves, which, once again, me saying that isn't going to change anybody. You have to learn it for yourself. I remember Nick Bockwinkel told me the same thing in 1992. You move too fast, you do too many moves, you know, and I'm like, what does Nick Bockwinkel know? Meanwhile, totally right. Of course he knew. He's one of the all-time greatest of the greats. And I think when I say that sometimes to some of the guys, they look at me like I've got two heads, but then it clicks. You know, it clicked for Jack Perry about 6 months after we worked. He goes, you know, I was thinking about when you said this. He goes, you're really right. That makes sense. And, you know, it's all part of the evolution of the business. You start out young and you get old and you learn all this along the way. And then you try and tell the young guys what you know, and they don't want to listen until they get a little bit older. And then they do the same. And it's a wheel, you know, and it's fun to watch the different various stages of our talent in AEW and seeing when certain guys start getting it and start understanding what we're talking about. And I mean, Darby got that with working with Sting. He's still off his rocker insane, but his timing and his ideas and all that, you can tell. I mean, you can't work with Sting for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it was and not pick up those valuable little pointers. And that's what I'm here to do in AEW. You know, my career, I don't know how much longer it is. It could be a year, it could be 10 years. But either way, my mindset and my mission is to just build up the young guys and teach them as much as I can, and leave them better equipped than they were before they worked with me.
So, last couple of questions. You just touched on it then, retirement. You said before you don't want to make it a big thing. You've also you're not thinking about it necessarily, like not looking to imminently retire. How do you view the possibility that your career is eventually heading towards retirement?
Well, yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Like, you're staying at 64 retired, and it's a little bit different. You know, everybody's different. Yeah. Like, to me, when the please retire chants were going, I was laughing because it's like, I have zero intentions of that. You know, I mean, I've got a 6-pack and I can do a moonsault, and I know exactly what I'm doing in the ring. I know how to write storylines. I like the company I work for. I like my boss. I like the guys and girls in the company. Why would I want to retire? What's the point? Just because somebody told me to? Like, I remember the Stones in '89 when they did the Steel Wheels tour. They were calling it the Steel Wheelchair Tour. The Stones are too old. The Stones should retire. I just saw the Stones 2 months ago and they were amazing. So they didn't care. You retire when you know it's time, when you know it's right. And it's not the right time right now. You know, it's not. I say it. I say it all the time. You know, as long as I know I can still have the best match of the night, not every night, but I can still do it, I'm going to stay. And as long as I can still continue to have good ideas and feel motivated and passionate, I'm going to stay. You know, God willing, I physically don't have any issues, and I don't, which is amazing after 33 years. I think that's another reason why people are mad, because I've never had to take any extended time off for that. So, you know, what's the hassle? You know, it's the epitome of age is just a number. If you saw me walk down the street, I don't think too many people go, oh, that guy's 53 years old. Yeah. I don't, you know, some might, but I think, you know, show business is part of it too. You have to look the part, and I still look like Chris Jericho and act like Chris Jericho and work like Chris Jericho. So until that moment where I feel like, okay, This needs to stop. I've got no intentions of it. And like I said, there's no timeline on it. It could be this week. It could be 5 years from now. I don't know. I just know that as of this moment at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, August 19th, as I'm talking to you, I'm having a great time. I love going to work. I love contributing, and there's no reason to stop doing that.
Whenever it does come, like 5, 10 years, whatever, what does a post in ring Jericho career look like?
I mean, you can already see it. We talked about Fozzy. I still have that live element of touring with the band. I've been doing a lot more acting recently. I've had a lot more offers for roles. That's always something I wanted to do, and it seems that it's getting more frequent. So that would probably go into that side of things. But who knows, man? Like you never know. Staying with AEW in a backstage position or doing more commentating. Which I gave up doing Rampage because the character of the Learning Tree I didn't feel would be great doing commentary. So what did I do? I handed it over to Daddy Magic, another guy that no one really knew until he started working with me. There you go. But I could do some more of that stuff. There's a million things I could do. If the physicality of being in the ring would stop, but I don't think I'd ever stop being involved in the wrestling business in some sort of capacity. Because once again, it's all about the experience that you have. And there's so many different things that you can do in the business besides just appearing in the ring that I could probably have almost as big of a career outside the ring as I have inside the ring when that time comes.
Okay, a couple of quick fire questions. What's been your biggest career regret?
There was probably, I never got to work with Owen Hart or Bret Hart. I only worked briefly with The Undertaker, and we never had that big pay-per-view match or angle. But the matches we did do were so good. We had one match on SmackDown where afterwards we were like, where have you been all my life? Same thing with Bryan Danielson. We finally had a great match in AEW after I think we'd worked once in WWE. So those types of things are regrets. Other than that, I really don't have any regrets because anything that I might regret is just experience that you learn from and go to the next level. So probably from a standpoint of that, I never got to work with Owen or Bret and never got to do a full angle with Undertaker would be some big regrets there.
Yeah. What's been your favorite match?
Hard to say. I mean, Shawn Michaels ladder match at No Way Out, I believe 2008. One of my all-time favorite matches, not just because of the match itself, but the storyline leading up to it. I don't think you can get a better story and match than that. So that one stands out for me. AEW, I mean, the match I just had with Suzuki where we chopped each other 150 times, actually 149 times. Jerry Lynn counted. I love that match because it showed two vets that were so experienced. All we had is just chopping each other. That's it. And then a couple things afterwards. But literally like 8 minutes straight of chopping on national TV. And people were going bananas. When I kicked him finally to stop the chop, people were booing and really mad about it. And I was like, that's what pro wrestling is. It's not the moves. It's what you are doing and how you can draw people into the match. So for recent matches, that one stands out to me and always will as well.
Two last ones. What's been the championship that you've won that's meant the most to you?
I think that the WWE championship, the Shawn Michaels era. I can't remember when I won that. Maybe it was a championship scramble or something like that. Because that to me was like I won the undisputed one, which was fine. The WCW won a couple times, but a lot of people won the title once. To win it again, I think 5 years later was a big deal because you get in that championship cycle and then you're out. It's hard to get back in. And the fact I was able to build it with the suit and tie guy, Jericho, and then the AEW championship, the first being the first AEW champion and knowing that the company was kind of on my back at that point. And then believe it or not, this whole thing we've done with the For the World Championship took a title that meant nothing and made it something. Like there's so many titles in AEW, but everyone knows the one that I have and the one that we're going for. Once again, you take what you're given and make it great.
Yeah.
That's another thing I would tell people who are getting in the business. You can't control how you're booked, but you can control the performances that you give.
Mm.
And that's, I think we did a really great job with that title. Had a blast working with that. So that was a lot of fun too.
So you look back at your whole career, which is still evolving, but how do you sum up everything into like one or two sentences?
A lot of fun, just a lot of fun, a lot of creativity, a lot of just standing up for what you believe in and chasing the goals, man. But yeah, if you could boil it down to one thing, I got to live my dreams, touring the world, entertaining people, and that goes for Fozzy as well. And you know, what more could you ask for? Um, you know, as a kid who grew up wanting to be a wrestler and wanting to be in a rock and roll band, and that's exactly what I'm doing 40 years later. And you know, millions of people have had a chance to put their problems aside and enjoy something that I'm doing to take them away from their issues. And that's kind of what it's all about.
Brilliant. All right. Thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Take care, dude. Anytime.